The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at Gruns.co. That's code podcast at GRUNS.co.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. Happy 2026. We're getting you rolling. We're going to talk some hockey and not just the World Juniors that were here in town. We're going to hit on that, but we got Wild, we got Frost, we got Gophers. We're talking with the written rule of sports guru, Heather Rule, today. And if you haven't been following her rink rule stuff for hockey, for all of the aforementioned sports, you're missing out. So we're going to dive into some hockey talk coming up.
Yep. Lucky today to be with Dawn and Heather. I'm Jim Suhan from TalkNorth.com and the Star Tribune. She, of course, is Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9 Sports and this show, Dawn of Sports. Heather Rule's a longtime friend, one of the hardest working people in the marketplace. Check out all of her stuff. We'll tell you how to read and access all of her work later. But today we're just going to have a fun conversation with her. Again, this is Dawn of Sports. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Best way to listen to this show or any of the shows you like at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. We also want to thank Lexus, Wayzata, and Maplewood and Minnesota Masonic Charities. Back to you, Dawn.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, without further ado, Heather Rule, thank you for joining us again. We love having you on the show, but especially this time of year. Jim and I were talking before we hopped on here that it's just kind of the gloomy winter. It all settles in. We need a bright spot. We need to talk some hockey with you. Give us some sunshine on a cloudy day, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Are you going to bring some sunshine? I mean, we need it, right? Don't we, Jim?
I hope so. It'd be good to have some sunshine outside, but, there's plenty of hockey going on. I know football just, ended for the Vikings and everything, and it's the dead of winter after the holidays, but it's super busy with hockey for me lately, so...
So that's what we were just talking about. We now need to turn our attentions to things that are great. But before we go into the hockey that's going on right now, let's put a punctuation mark or a pretty bow, as people like to say, on the World Juniors that just finished up here in the Twin Cities. The state of hockey, it was finally here in the United States, then hosted here. They just put on just such a show. I'm so proud of everyone that did that here over at Grand Casino Arena and sports and events. They did such an awesome job. You were at every single game, it seemed. How did it feel to you to have such a great event here in our own backyard?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The hockey was really good. I think especially the semifinal day a couple days ago was just really exciting. A couple of great games. I know some people lament a little bit that, it ends in a shootout. They have a 10-minute overtime, 3-on-3, and no winner. So they go to a shootout. I know some people are like, oh, they should just, keep playing overtime. It's like, well, do we really want to be here till 3 a.m? I think sometimes.
Yes,
but
Heather, yes. I am of that group. I do not like big games determined by shootouts. I hate it. Hey, run of the mill.
I agree.
Regular, games, blah, blah. But this, no, you play until 3. I'm sorry. That's just, maybe I don't know, Jim, what's your opinion? Do you like shootouts for those kind of big games?
I'm exactly with you. Regular season, normal games, get it over with so everybody can get home. Championship games cannot be decided by shootout.
No, and it makes it epic if it goes to 12 rounds of it. Who's going to, I want to see who's exhausted and who stays in and who wins this thing.
I'm also saying this is someone who didn't have to cover it and stay up till 3 o'clock. So easy for me to say.
I mean,
Heather's I want to go home.
Yes.
I would agree with you too, though. I'm just telling you kind of the vibes that were out there from, I know some people did not prefer the shootout. Some people want the overtime. Some people are fine with that. I agree with you too. I think, and especially because it was 3-on-3 overtime, and it was really too bad too, because Finland actually had in that semifinal game, they had a power play basically the last 2 minutes of that overtime, and so it was 4-on-3, and they controlled the puck and basically put on a passing clinic. They got two good shots off, but they had really just an opportunity to end that game there, and they did not. I would have liked to have seen if it was a wild game, the fans would have been losing their minds, yelling "shoot" throughout that power play. But yes, so they had their opportunity, and then ended up losing in the shootout to Sweden. But that was a really good game. Canada didn't make it out of their semifinal. That was also a really good back and forth game as well in their semi. And the gold medal game got really exciting right at the end between Czechia and Sweden. Sweden had a 3-0 lead, and Czechia pulled the goaltender with like 3:20 left and scored a couple of goals with the extra attacker. I think there was only, as it turned out, only one 5-on-5 goal was scored in that game. Sweden had a shorthanded and a power play, but so it got really exciting. The comeback was too little too late, but Sweden just dominated really in the entire tournament too. I think the best team really did win the gold, and it was just so much fun to see the good hockey, the back and forth. Some of those games too were just really back and forth, or 1-goal games, teams responding. It was just a lot of fun to see that kind of play from these young players who are all just talking to them after the game. They're all so proud to play for their country and to play in this tournament. It's what they've dreamed about for so many years growing up.
Absolutely. And, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the just the gut punch that Team USA took. I think Bob Motzko put it so well in his post-game interviews. He's like, he said we made 2 mistakes. And it basically, what was his line? Sports, it bloody rips your heart out.
Yes, yep.
It's so true. You can play such a great game, and then boom, in overtime, Finland beat them. How was that? I know poor Cole Hudson. I was listening to all of his post game, and he feels like he goes, I rushed back to try to help, and then this and then that, and I should have done more. I mean, these kids just put their heart and literally their bodies on the line. And just to hear them after the game, it bloody ripped my heart out.
Yeah, it was tough, I think, for the U.S. to not even make that semifinal game. And then you have a shot at, playing 2 more games, either for gold or bronze. And I think that was really hard. And Motzko brought it up too. And he even said, I know this is going to sound wrong, because he's not, making excuses, but he's just saying, we had injuries, and that affects things, and it affects the game. And Max Plant was also injured, missed a couple of games. Yes. And he was asked too, he said, was he trending, like he was going to play again? And he said, yeah, he was probably going to, play again. I think he said Friday, because it's around the holidays, nobody knows what day it is, I think was the funny joke. So he's like, I don't even know what day it is. So that was kind of funny. But I think there was kind of in the media scrum, sort of just this little bit of a sigh from the reporters in a way, kind of this silent, because Max Plant's another one of their very talented players. And, just a really hometown game for him, being from Minnesota. And so he missed out and wasn't able to play in that quarterfinal, and, could have been back for the semis, it sounded like, but they, didn't make it that far. So I think it's disappointing, especially because, U.S. was going for the 3-peat. It was here, in the United States, in Minnesota. And Motzko, said it pretty well, that it's tough. And, he's of course asked, well, what do you say to the players after? He said, well, you just, you go around, you hug them, you tell them you're proud of them. And I think that's a sentiment from many of the losing coaches or teams we talk to. It's just, everyone kind of leaves it all out there. And, there's only one team in the end that comes out, winning gold. And in that quarterfinal, it's, win or go home. And unfortunately for the U.S., that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah, that's so difficult. And, You feel for it, you know it, you know that it's going to come down to it once you're in the quarterfinals. It's like you win or go home, or win or stay home. In many of the cases for the guys that wanted to be near their families for the holidays. I'm really especially thankful though for a lot of the native Minnesotan kids that had a chance to play in front of their home family, be on their home turf. Many of them had memories of playing in that building before when it was the X. Just to see them kind of come full circle, whether or not they end up, a lot of them are still playing in college, but whether or not they go pro or not, they may never be in that building again to have that experience, let alone the World Juniors ever again there. So how cool was that when they were talking about, being in that rink at home around their friends?
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely, again, I talk about, the pride of playing for your country, but I'd kind of asked about, well, the pride of playing in your home state, or, for some of the guys, Will Zellers from Maple Grove and, Lakeville, for guys that are just right down or up the road. I mean, they're, bringing all kinds of family and friends to the game, and they're able to see them play on this stage, just right on, their home turf, and how it's just such really a home game for them. And a lot of them talked about, like, this is the tournament I dreamed about, playing in, even like ahead of the Olympics or before the Olympics. Obviously, it's right. Like, this is the tournament, and to be able to do it here in Minnesota, I think there's obviously the disappointment of not being able to go further, for sure, but being able to play in front of their family and friends on this stage was, I think, just very meaningful, very prideful for those players. And I think that's, again, something that a lot of the players talked about, no matter what country they were from, just, putting on that jersey for their country. And a lot of them, I think, really appreciated that experience and what that means to them.
Well, I want to give an extra shout out. You mentioned Will Zellers. This is a kid that was a late addition to the team, had to come in real quickly and kind of, get his footing. Like, yes, it's his dream to make the team. I know he's a star in North Dakota, but the fact that he not only came in, I think he got like 3 game winners in a row. I definitely know it's 2, but how about his play to be like shot out of a cannon?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he was. He kind of turned out to be the focus of the piece I wrote for Minnesota Hockey Magazine from the Slovakia game in the preliminary round, and just talking to him a little bit. And yeah, game-winning goals. Not only scoring the goals, but game winners on top of it. And the U.S. did have really good success in the preliminary games, for sure. And for him to come in, and he had a very, very good tournament. I think I actually had voted him for. There was a all-star team that media could vote on. I think I put him as one of the forwards, just because of just the great tournament that he had. And so, again, I think the only thing that didn't work out for him was just that, the U.S. got bounced early, but he certainly produced, and it looked like, talking to him after that Slovakia game, he was just having so much fun too. And he was really enjoying himself and enjoying the experience.
You're listening to TalkNorth.com. We have an incredible lineup: Dawn Mitchell, Mark Rosen, Lavelle Neal, Roy Smalley, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, Alec Lewis, John Krasinski, Jeff Diamond. I could go on. We have outdoor content as well as the best sports lineup in town. And we want to thank our sponsors, make it all possible, starting with Aquarius Home Services and also Lexus, Wayzata, and Maplewood. Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities. Back to Dawn and Heather.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Heather, I know that we're talking about Team USA for World Juniors. Let's kind of make just the leap to the big Team USA. Just a couple of days ago, they announced who's going to be on the men's and women's USA team, and of course, littered with Minnesota connections. We'll start first with the Wild. Of course, they have 8 Olympians, 3 USA, 4 from Sweden, 1 from Germany. But when you start seeing some of these players that we all knew, you follow them when they're in high school here, of course, sometimes even younger. Then they go to college, then World Juniors. And so now the Olympics, and it's going to be in Milan. It's kind of an exciting time. And I know there's kind of people on either side of the aisle, whether they like the Olympic break or not, but take it for what it is. Now you can have these NHL players in the Olympics, as they have the past few games. And I personally love it. Do you love it? Do you love it that there's a break in the NHL? And then we get to see some of these guys that, yeah, they play pro, but the number one thing on their docket is they also want to play in the Olympics. And now, it's been fun to see them get their chance.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's fun to see these guys get their opportunity in the Olympics. And, for the women too, for so long, the women, that was kind of the pinnacle and sort of all they had in a way was, getting to that Olympics. But, to see the NHL players or the NHL players there too, that's kind of what you want. You want to see the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. And you want to see, a lot of these guys, like a Brock Faber, again, Minnesota connection through and through, and get his opportunities. And, I think the guys really enjoy that. And again, going back to the World Juniors, like the pride so many of these players feel for not only their own games and being able to do something individually, but to shine on the international stage. And, I spoke with Faber and Boldy a little bit ahead of the World Juniors, just kind of asking him about the World Juniors experience and what that tournament was like to play in. And, they spoke very highly of that tournament. And I think this is just kind of one step further and one step up. At the time, World Juniors was it, like being at that age level, that was it. That was the pinnacle. And then, to get to the NHL, to get to the Olympics, I think it's so much fun to see, just that top talent. You want to see the best games, right? You want to see the best players out there giving it their all, and everything is on the line. It's not, a 7-game series. You get to those medal rounds. It's one game, and, you got to see who's the better team on that night to try and move on in the medal rounds.
Yeah. And of course, so you mentioned Boldy and Brock, and now Quinn Hughes is the other Wild player that's on Team USA. And man, if he hasn't hit the ground running in Minnesota and already has kind of like this iconic status, I don't know who has ever gotten it faster. I love that he had his 4-assist game in Anaheim. Now, I know that they're in the midst of their 7-game road trip and they're 3-3, but let's focus right now on Quinn Hughes and that record-setting night that he had. I loved afterwards, he said, I'm starting to fit in. He goes, when you come to a team that's like third in the league, it's not about you. It's not about me. I kind of wanted to like be a little maybe passive and fit in and to have someone put that into words and be like, well, I'm not going to step in and be like, hey, move over. I'm Quinn Hughes, right? Hi, remember I got Norris Trophy tattooed on my back. I got one of those at home. He was just really humble about it. But now you can see that he's hitting his groove. You see him smiling like in these post-game things. I think they had him do the lineup the other day. He said, yeah, now he can start being more of himself. I think that's cool. And I'm really happy with how quickly he's fit in. How has that been from your perspective, being at the games?
Yeah, I would agree. I think the coolest thing is just to see how this season really has evolved for the Wild. You think about October and when they were just not playing very good hockey at all. And, October to November became like a tale of 2 months, 2 seasons for the Wild. And even on, I think they had a game November 1st. I think it was Vinny Hinostroza had said said something about turning the page to November, turning the calendar. And just, that might seem like a small thing, but they really just seem to take that very seriously and then continue that momentum, in December when they got Quinn Hughes, and just the excitement and how everything has really shifted to, wow, the Wild are really Stanley Cup contenders now. And they're going to go on a deep playoff run. And to have him, you're right, Quinn Hughes just come in and gel so well with this team. You see how well he skates, the way he moves with the puck and handles the puck, and the way he can just, I don't know, pivot, turn on a dime, and just, evade defenders and everything. He's been so good. He's contributed offensively already as well. And I think it's been fun to watch the excitement. His first game, we actually went to, some of the other media went down to kind of one of the goal ends to see warm-ups and just see the crowd there for warm-ups. There's usually a bunch of people around the glass, kids with signs and that kind of thing. But it seemed like there were just a lot more people there that day just to see him and warm-ups, and giving him a standing ovation, after warm-ups and when he's introduced and all that. So just to see the fans really support and latch on to has been so much fun, to just see the excitement that people have around this team now. It's been really fun to just see how things have turned around, and they're one of the, top 3 teams in the league basically, and they're all in the same division. So that's fun. That's another discussion.
That's anxiety inducing. Like, you're like, yay, they're 3rd in the league. Oh, they're also 3rd in the Western Conference. Oh, they're 3rd in the Central. Like, come on. It's like, come on, can we just enjoy something, please?
Right. Yes,
it's
exactly.
Not a fight. It's not Minnesota.
Because there's all that anxiety about the first round, getting out of the first round. And I think some of that is still there if you're the Minnesota sports fan. Like, well, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves here. We have to, first of all, you have to make the playoffs, first of all, and then getting out of that first round for the first time in quite a while would be good. So let's,
The thing what I love with that is, and it hits on so many different levels, is, let's say for Quinn Hughes specifically, he said he was so impressed with what the Wild were willing to give up for him that he felt valued,
Yeah.
And so then the Wild they know full well what they gave up for him, right? So they made a gamble. And the fans are like, wow, they're invested in winning now. I think, sometimes those gambles pay off and you lose. Sometimes they pay off and you win. Now, granted, we're still in the short-term part of the gamble, and it looks like it's paying off great. But you have to gamble. You have to take a chance if you want to win. And I think when you look at teams and they know that this is a team that's only going to be together now, right? Who knows what's going to happen with free agency, the next year, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You want to see ownership, management, and players want to win now. And I think that's what we're seeing in this like turning of the page, because now they're 25, 11, and 8 going into their final game coming up here of this 7-game road trip, right? I think they play Thursday in Seattle to finish up their 7-game road trip. Coming up back-to-back losses in LA, but they're 3-3 so far. And when you just look at that and just how well, like Matt Boldy is playing, 26 goals, Kirill, 24 goals. So you're getting the scoring, you're getting the great play on defense, obviously with Hughes, and then even goaltending. Like you said, everyone is this groundswell. They're feeling like they could do this if we can only get out of the division to beat the 2 teams ahead of us. But for those who gamble, and there's a better word, but you got to take a chance, right? If you want to win, you got to take a chance. And I think that's the excitement that I'm feeling. Is that the excitement you're feeling?
Right. Yes. Yes, definitely. I think that this win now mentality, I think there was a little bit of disbelief when that move was made. I saw that news come through from Michael Russo, and I was like, wait, like Minnesota? Like I saw,
we won the
when he was like, wait, exactly. Like he's coming here. What? So I think there was a lot of that just kind of disbelief, because that doesn't necessarily happen a ton in this market where everybody, the teams kind of go for it in this win now mentality. So yes, there is a lot of excitement, and it's around him, but you're right too. You point out, some of those other players, like the goaltending that's been so amazing this season, and guys like Matt Boldy, who I think this is probably one of his best years he's ever had. Like he's always been such a great talent. I think sometimes it's putting that complete game together and being consistent throughout a season. That's been maybe lacking at times, where he'll kind of go in these spurts where he's, maybe not playing as well or not producing on the point sheet consistently. But he's done that this year with the goals he scores and some of the moves he has in the, I know the shootout, but the regular season, so it's fine. He makes some great moves to score in the shootout as well. And just so, to have him and Kirill and getting Zuccarello back from, he was injured. I mean, that's the other thing the team has dealt with a lot of injuries so far early on this season too, that they've, it didn't really seem to matter either, because they were still winning, even though, it was kind of this, okay, who's out injured tonight? It was usually multiple people. But I think, yes, that the excitement is here with kind of this win now mentality, for sure. I know fans are feeling that.
And moving on to the Frost, we know it's early, but back-to-back championships, nothing to forget quickly. We all do, like, oh yeah, they're just going to win again. No, it's hard to, first of all, win, let alone back-to-back. But they also have 8 players going to the Olympics, 2 teams, 2 players for Czechia, 6 Team USA, Heisey, Zumwinkle, Panic, Steckline, all names we know here well, Minnesota. Kendall Coyne, Schofield, Britta Krol-Salemi. When you just go down these rosters and people just expect this team now to kind of come out and win, I think there is a different excitement now around this team. I even heard my neighbor's kids singing the song that the Frost sang, something about the atmosphere. I'm like, I can't remember it right now, but there's chants that are out in the crowd. And I heard them saying
it's cold in here. Yeah.
Yes.
There must be some frost in the atmosphere.
In the atmosphere. Yep. My neighbor's kids were saying that as they were building a snowman. And I was like, oh my God, that is so awesome. That just in like a few years that's even like kind of trickling down, I was like, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be like, who's the weirdo lady cheering us on? But I think that's cool. What have you seen in terms of just how they've ingratiated themselves into the fabric already of Minnesota?
Yeah, it's cool. I was looking at their 2 championship banners now last night when I was at the arena, just kind of, they're up in the rafters kind of by where the lighthouse is at Grand Casino Arena. And to just see those championship banners up there, and just part of me still can't believe that they won both of those in some ways because of the way they did it, in a very similar way where they kind of very much backed into the playoffs at the last minute, got the lowest seed, but came out and got the job done when it mattered, and in overtime in a lot of cases. So it's very exciting, and also, shouldn't be taken for granted, which I think in Minnesota, we know that very well. But it's been fun to see this season, this season now, season 3, to really, like, okay, it's not the first season anymore. We're, it's not as new, there were so many firsts that first year. But this year, they've had expansion in the league. You have teams in Seattle and Vancouver now. So there's more players. They're doing more of these takeover tour games in, other parts of the country in Canada where there's, they're kind of testing out these other markets, right, to see where they might expand again. And so to see those games have success, and I did a story recently where there was a takeover tour game in Dallas with New York and Seattle, because I think the 2 players in the league who are from Texas are on those teams. And I did a story for USA Hockey just about the Dallas market and how, it's not a traditional quote unquote hockey market like Minnesota might be, but just how it's growing down there, and especially with girls hockey, the interest, and so how important it is for the growth of the game there. And, here with the Frost, it's, this season, they're already 10 games in, which is a third of their way through their regular season. But they've also been on the road so much. They were home to open, had their band raising ceremony, then went on the road for 3 games, came back here for 1, and then now spent 5 games on the road. Obviously, kind of like the Wild, their building has been in use in St. Paul here with the World Juniors. So they'll finally be back this coming weekend. But they are in second place. They have, some of the league's top scorer, Kendall Coyne, the goals leader. Britta Krol has had an amazing start to her season as the league points leader. They've gotten production on the blue line, which I think was a little bit of a question mark with some of the players that got dealt in the expansion draft and free agency. They had some really good offensive blue liners. And you have May Batherson, who has gone on a tear. She scored her first goal. She's on a point streak. I did a really cool story about her and her brother Drake, who plays for Ottawa, and Ottawa played the Wild in December. So she had a chance to see him play, and it was fun to talk to both of them just about, growing up playing hockey together. And her defensive partner lately is rookie Kendall Cooper, who set a league record for assists in 7 games in a row. So I think it's been really fun to see, they do have so much depth. I think they'd love to see a little more scoring from kind of everywhere, all 4 lines, which they have a little bit. And Coach Ken Klee does like to mix up the lines sometimes too, but it's just,
Right.
it's fun to see them having some early success and to see, those familiar Minnesota faces that fans love, and to see the fan base continue to support the team and have the interest continue to grow. I think will be good. And hopefully, we'll see that some more this month when they have a few more home games, get a couple more for the fans to come out and see them play, because they're a lot of fun. It's good hockey. It's, there's talent, there's skill, there's physical play too, which I think is still something that's maybe a misconception with some people who don't follow women's hockey as closely, but it is, it's very good physical, clean most of the time physical hockey. It's a lot of fun to watch.
It certainly is. And I don't want to be remiss and forget about the Gophers, the men and women. I know the men are kind of having a rough patch right now in their season, but the women, number 3 in the country, Abby Murphy, we had her on our podcast just a couple of weeks ago. Yes, indeed, making Team USA for the Olympics. So I'm so proud of her. Talk about a scoring machine. And then Nellie Leighton, of course, made it for Finland. But there's so much hockey going on right now. And Heather, I don't know how you're getting yourself to all these rinks, and I think you have a cot at Grand Casino Arena. I think maybe they renamed one of those back rooms for you, the rink rule room. It's been amazing though, because if I can't make it, especially when it was during Viking season, I'm always going to your stories and reading them to kind of keep me up on it, because it's great to find the stats and who's doing what, but the stories, like you mentioned with Batherson and her brother, is phenomenal. So for the people that are listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to read that story, where can they find all of this work that you're doing throughout this hockey season?
Sure. Yeah. So with the start of the frost season, I launched a Substack. It's Written Rule of Sports .substack.com. And that's where I've been putting pretty much all of my frost content. I also always say I'm at HL Rule on the socials too, Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, Instagram, all that. TikTok too, a little bit. So
you gotta be on the TikTok, girl.
Yeah.
Gotta be on the Tik.
Yeah, that gets some good engagement. Just posted a little celebration video the other day from World Juniors, and people like that stuff. So yeah. But yeah, the Substack is where I've been sharing a lot of my frost stories recently. So it's been fun to have that outlet and just to cover the frost a little bit more even than I did last year, and to do a couple of fun features. And I did one about their player of the game. Every team has like a player of the game, prop nowadays, right? Like a hat or a piece of clothing, something. So the Frost have like a wrestling belt and some purple sunglasses. So I kind of dug into the origins of that, which was kind of fun to talk to the players about.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know that we're just kind of scratching the surface right here on the hockey season. World Juniors, they're gone. Minnesota did you proud. Team USA, we love you anyway. We do. Just seeing the stars of the future. But I just want to say, as my friend, as a sports journalist colleague, I want to thank you. Your writing is tremendous. And you bring the stories that we want to hear. You bring these athletes to life. And sometimes it's hard too. Whenever there's a sport with a helmet, you really got to peel away so many layers of literal equipment, but also other things to get to know these players. And you do that on such a high level. Heather, I just want to thank you for all of your work.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I really appreciate the kind words. It's there's so many stories that I love to tell. And I think you talk about, digging into getting to know these players. I think that's what I really enjoy the most is, these feature type stories and the personality profiles. And talking to, especially with the Frost, a lot of these players about their background and how they started in hockey, and did they play with boys growing up, or were they on girls teams, or just finding out more details about them. And it's been a lot of fun to do these stories, and it's what I really enjoy. So I always appreciate anybody who reads and takes in my content. So it's very appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's Heather Rule. If you're into hockey, just the Written Rule Sports on Substack.com. Rink Rule is the header, but that's not all she does. She's written books. She's also a race car junkie. You can talk to her about whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar. She loves her IndyCar, by the way. She covers it all. So just check out any of Heather Rule's work and you will not be disappointed. Heather, thank you so much. I could talk hockey all day long because I love it. Now that the Vikings are over, I can talk it some more. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dawn. I appreciate it. Always good to talk to you and hop on your pod. So thanks so much.
Thanks to Heather. Thanks to Dawn. And we'll talk to you all next week.